Hey there, it's Moufarrege from growthevoice.com, and I got a good friend here who is also a vocal coach, Marnell Stample from vocalliberation.com.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
It's good to have you here, and today we're making a video together to talk about why you may not be sounding good and how to address it. It's a common problem where you may be singing songs and you may even have the range. You may be able to hit the notes, but for some reason, it just don't sound good. And I think we can all relate to having this problem. And when this problem comes up, oftentimes we don't even know where to start. We'll be thinking, well, hey, maybe I'm just not cut out for singing. You know, maybe, maybe I just don't have the tone for this style or whatever, So what is the problem? How do we address it? And how do we address it systematically? And that's what we're going to show you today, how to kind of, what things you can look out for. And these are things that you most likely have overlooked many times before. And they're subtle things that can make the difference between an average amateur song, or great, great, great singing. So is there anything you would like to say, Marnell, to add to that or to kick us off into this topic?
Yeah, yes, I would. Just to share a little bit of personal experience that I've had with this, because I've gone through this issue myself of, trying to figure out. I've been taking voice lessons, just as many of you have. This is from speaking in a retrospect now. I get emails like this all the time saying that, oh, I've been taking lessons for X number of years and I do have more control over my voice and more capabilities with my voice. But when I go to the studio to record a song or when I'm out gigging or performing and I listen back to the recording, something still sounds off and I'm not just quite getting that response out of people that I'm looking for. And I experienced the same thing myself. I would go to sing certain songs by my favorite artists and I would listen to them and then I would record myself singing it and I would go, what in the world am I doing wrong? So we will be covering three things, three reasons why this occurs today. So, Phil, have you personally had any of these types of struggles in your journey of learning to sing in terms of, you have the range for a song, you have some of the abilities, but it still just sounds off to you?
Absolutely. So, and I see this a lot with rock singers because that's where I came when I started singing. My roots are actually in R&B and pop and rock and stuff. But when I started singing, I was in a phase where I was into thrash metal and hard rock and stuff like that. And I find because I train a lot of singers from this genre, I find they also have the same issues. And these issues were that the songs themselves emphasized power and range above other things. So those were the priorities that started to come into my mind about what I should focus on with singing. Just get more power, more range. And it was just about hitting these notes big and strong and like that. And a lot of the melodic lines aren't complex enough or have enough tonal characteristics to invite you to even look into a different direction. So when I get a lot of rock singers, they'll sing a song and it'll be like, yeah, like you're hitting the notes, but it just doesn't have that same feeling this guy had. And like someone like Steve Perry, and then it's like, well, okay, let's look at where Steve Perry came from, and he was influenced by a lot of these old soul kind of singers and stuff like that. And so I think another example is Michael Jackson. We don't really think of him as a rock singer, but he did a lot of songs in the 80s that had a rock kind of feeling to them, where it was high belting, uh, kind of just stabby, melodic lines. And you got to go back and look at who influenced those people because the way, when you look at their history, you will see that they learned how to sound good on songs that were different than the ones they're currently singing. And I think that's important because when I train a lot of rock singers, I often get them to start heading into more R&B ballads where they can pick up the things that are going to make them sound good when they sing strong and fast in their normal genre of choice. That's what I think has helped me a lot. And that's kind of what we're going to go into a bit today. So I think this video might be a little bit biased in that we're showing a lot of R&B examples, but I think it's it's good to show those because they do carry into rock very, very well. Because if you can build up the things we're going to show you today, when you get into high, powerful, fast singing, up tempo songs, you'll find you've got a flair and swagger in your tone that comes out. Whereas if you just approach these fast songs with none of this, you won't get that same kind of sound. So that's kind of what I mainly work on today nowadays. I've got the range to sing the things I love. I focus more on just developing my artistry, my flair, my swagger, my tone, my delivery, my phrasing. And those are the things that's going to help you start sounding good on the songs. So is there anything you'd like to add, or would you like to just jump straight into it?
We can just jump straight into it. Okay, so the first thing we can talk about here is phrasing a little bit. And this is actually the really big piece of it that many of you might not have considered as something even being important, but it's really what makes a difference between something that just sounds okay and something that sounds really good. It's attention to a lot of details, attention to things like your dynamics, attention to things like when you breathe, colors that you use in your voice, where the beat is emphasized at within a phrase. Am I missing something?
I think you covered it, but just to kind of branch a little bit more into what you said, like when Marnell mentioned dynamics, I think a good thing to bring up is the notes always have to move in a kind of way, and that's what we're going to talk about a bit too. Is that when you sing a phrase, everything there's got to be some kind of flair to it. It's got to have to move, and we're going to talk about that and how that can really help you deliver emotionally into a song. Because when we sing with true emotion, these kind of things are what start to come out if you've trained them in the voice. If you haven't trained them in the voice doesn't know what to do when you try and sing with emotion. That's why I take issue when people kind of say, oh, just feel the song, just feel the song. Of course you've got to feel the song, but if you feel the song, you don't have the technical capabilities, nothing will come out that you're going to like. So other than that, I can't think of anything. We'll kind of figure it out as we go. So would you like to start it off?
Yes. So I would like to add some more to that. So um, if you are an instrumentalist, particularly if you play a brass instrument or a woodwind instrument, or if you play a string instrument like the violin, phrasing will probably come more easily and more natural to you. On an instrument like the guitar or the piano, you can have phrasing in there, but it doesn't come in precisely the same way as it does for a singer. So what I often recommend a lot of my singers do is to get their to get the ear attuned to phrasing is find someone doing a cover of some of the songs that you like, but look for a saxophone cover, look for a trumpet cover, look for a violin cover, a really good player, someone who plays really well on one of those instruments, and listen to how they're shaping the phrase. Listen to where they increase the dynamics, especially on the sax. Listen to where they increase dynamics because they're operating on one breath the same way we would as singers. So it functions in a very, very similar way to what we do. And as a matter of fact, I will give you an example. This is a song that I used to try to sing when I was first starting voice lessons some time ago. It is a song by Yolanda Adams. She is one of my favorite artists. She has excellent phrasing. I've studied her for a long time to figure out what she did in her phrasing. And you will hear a lot of this going on. And ironically, a lot of these artists, when they tell you what their inspirations are, sometimes they will tell you, oh, I'm just copying what I heard this instrumentalist doing or that instrumentalist doing. So they're literally in their mind, they're thinking like they're an instrument. So the song I'm going to sing just a little bit of is Just a Prayer Away because it has so many of these phrasing elements just built into it. Like you have to use colors a lot, um, dynamics, and then you'll see. So just give me 1 second while I start it off and get my key for this. So I know that there are times in your life when the winds just seem to blow, and uncertainties about your tomorrow seem to grow, 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 grow. One thing you should remember, and you should always know, that out of everyone who loves you, I, your Father, love you the most. For I am just one prayer away. Call my name with your heart, and I'll hear every word you happen to say. And when you cry at night, I'll wipe the tears away. Just pray, my love, and I'll be there right away. I'll be there right away. I'll be there right away.
Very
So,
nice.
thank you. Thank you very much. So, something like that. There's so much phrasing built into that song, from odd breathing patterns. Just for example, just even in the first line, I know that there are times in your. See, that's all one line, but I'm doing it the way a sax player would. It's like. That's how a sax player would play, with the little increases and decreases in volume like that, and keeping it all as one connected line. I know that there are times. See how I go a little bit louder? I know that there are times. And I'm kind of holding on to the M with just the tiniest thread of sound, just to still keep it connected. Times in your life, even in that little quick little run I did there. In your life, go softer, louder, back off again. In your life, when, and even that whole phrase, I know that there are times in your life when, that's all one breath, and when you end it on the when, it draws attention to that word. So it's like, even in that, the breaking up the breath like that and breaking up the phrase like that, that's all part of phrasing, and it's all those little things that I missed when I was first doing this. Like, I was singing all the notes when I was younger. Like, let me see if I can even recall it the way I used to sing it. I know that there are times in your life when. That's still not quite how I would sing it, but this is often what I hear people doing a lot of times with things of that nature. You're singing all the notes, you're doing it in time, but it doesn't sound like the song. You listen to Yolanda sing it, and that doesn't sound like her. It's, I know that there are times in your life when, like that, the winds, and then breath again, just seem to blow, just seem, a silly song, like, just just almost whispering here. Just seem to blow. And then I'm almost going to falsetto there on that last part of the note. Blow. So you get this change in color. You get not only a change in volume, but a change in color. It's the attention to all of those little types of details that make it what it is. And if you go back and listen to me singing that whole little snippet of the song again, you'll hear all those little things all throughout it. So Phil, do you have anything to add to what I did there from that example?
Absolutely. So what I tend to see is people seem to have an unconscious belief that they're going to kind of just develop these things automatically if they just practice singing to the song. So most people will approach singing like learning a song. They'll just put on the song and just sing to it in the car, or and you know, and you're just trying to sing and match the pitches and everything. That doesn't really develop this type of detail because you have to literally approach this. I'm going to show you an example now of how I would literally approach learning this, and how we recommend and how we teach singers to do it. It's literally to get the source song, the source material, and go through it line by line and breaking down each segment. Now, I want to bring up something too. This is not about trying to like mimic the artist in terms of like, oh, you know, I've got to sound like the artist. What it's really about is picking up the things that make them great, learning the traits that make them great. So I'm not really a big fan of people who say you should never copy artists, and I'm also, you know, not saying you should mimic either. You definitely do want to learn off these people because they have made it and they have achieved great things with their sound, and there's a lot to learn by studying their albums, studying full albums of great singers. Having said that, your voice may respond differently, and I'm going to show you a good example of how my voice responds completely differently to the next song that I'm going to show you. Now, before I show you that, what I want to say is if you don't, what you're trying to look for is to just fit in with the song. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I've taken, this is a song I always get people to sing because it's just a great way to develop these traits. It's Peabo Bryson, Can You Stop the Rain? Old R&B classic. So we're going to go, I'm going to show you something just in the opening couple lines. So straight off the gate, I want you to hear that one more time. Most people will go, here's another morning without you. Here's another day, will I get through it? And it's like, okay, you're singing it, but you're not really singing it, right? So, but you also don't, so I'm going to show you a few things, how you would approach this, but also what to look out for too when you're trying to copy a voice like this. So listen to the detail here. Stop it right there. It's another morning. So every note's got a little fade on it. Morning, morning. Notice how it comes at you. Morning. So it's all these details that Marnell's already covered with you about bringing each note to life. And you're only going to pick this up when you isolate it literally like that. Here's another morning without you. So everything's got a little trail. As you fade out, you enter in on the sound, you bring up the volume, you bring it down, you leave the phrase. This is what the art of delivery is about. Now, there's one thing you've got to make sure that this is about mimicking the artist, is I'm not going to do it like this. Here's another morning without you. You know, you've got to know how far to take the sound before it's out of your tone, I guess, you know. I also don't want to be like, here's another morning without you, because it's too up here. So I'm trying to best capture his depth of the sound without leaving what is true to me. And what I mean by that is if I go, here's another morning, now I'm suddenly tight in the larynx.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I've got to find that sweet spot where I can, here's another morning without you. I can kind of get close to that deeper tone for me without tightening my larynx to get it. And that's kind of some of the stuff we're talking about in the last video was about keeping the sound free. And we talked about messa de voce because if you learn these techniques on how to swell volume while keeping the voice free, that's when you can approach these kind of phrases in the songs. It's teaching you to it's teaching you how to go from soft to light, soft to heavy on the phrases. So that is a song I find challenges a lot of people, including myself and probably everybody who tries to sing it. And I think songs like that, the key here is we're showing you kind of slower songs, kind of almost closer to a ballad.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that is because when songs get too quick, all these traits become more and more and more subtle. They become briefer because you're getting more stabby sounds. I'll show you what I mean by that. Um,
Well, one second before
yeah,
you, I
actually,
would actually
show
like to make a
that later.
point. I want to
Yeah.
make a point about what you just said. There are 2 points actually. Number one is this is also what I was demonstrating with the song that I sang. I believe there is a term for it. I think it's called how you contour a musical phrase, the contour of the musical phrase, where you have these peaks and valleys of softer, louder, softer, louder. That is literally the shape of the musical phrase. Every single musical phrase has a shape to it. And when you listen to these artists and you're trying to copy them, you're trying to copy the contour of the musical line that they give you. So, there's another morning, there's another morning without you. You know, that's what you're trying to capture the essence of. And this is once again a reason why I suggest listening to instrumentalists because it becomes a little bit easier sometimes to pick up the shape of a phrase when you just have an instrument that is devoid of words, devoid of all these tonal colors that a singer would do. It lets you hone in more on, oh, now I kind of see the shape of this. Another good exercise that I would suggest and I have singers do sometimes, is literally just sing the entire phrase on a vowel or just hum the entire phrase. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ooh, nah. See, you do it that way, you're basically doing the same thing an instrumentalist does now. Because you've gotten rid of the words. Now you're just finding, okay, well, what is the contour of this phrase? So that is something else that you might want to try. No.
Sorry, yeah, I had something to say.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted us to also talk about how this changes when we go to the higher range because um, another crucial element to developing the phrasing is how you shape your vowels. For example, um, and I know we're biasing a little bit here with some of these ballads and stuff here, but I'm also talking about rock singers here because a lot of rock singers come to me and they've learned how to spread into everything. And what tends to happen is they start approaching everything with this. And when you get to the high range, because they rely on the high notes to come from this spreader position, you get this kind of sound. I'll show you the original first. Like my... Yeah. How can I go on? Baby, I've been living on memory. So
Such an
most
awesome
people,
tone.
yeah, it is. It's great. So much resonance. And so you've got to be careful when you approach this. Like I said a moment ago, you don't want to be like, how can I? If that's not what's true to you. So, but the thing I usually see when I get rock singers to do this is, how can I go on? And it's still singing the song, but I think what works better is learning how to really fit into the sound. And that would be to take out this, how can I go on? Baby, I've been living on memories instead of memory. and you get too much, you don't get that nice O sound he's getting. Like here. He gets that memories. He gets that nice buttery kind of tone. So I think it's good to learn how to sing songs without having the spread, just a vertical position, and then you can add in that smile as a supplement later because you don't want to be limited to it. So really, you can experiment with how much you change your mouth position to get the tone. I like to think of singing a song like the simplest way I can think of it would be, okay, how much am I going to open up this way on the sound, and what's the other one? Volume. So those two things. If you just if you could only control two things, and you controlled the volume and how bright or dark your vowels are, you would get a very distinct change just from those two parameters, ignoring other things. So you can always start there. You can always do, it's the same thing with Michael McDonald. You go, how can I go on? It gives you a very different tone to, how can I go on? And I wouldn't want to use that second one, that spreaded one. That would be more suitable for, say, a belty rock tune, but not this kind of thing where you need finesse in the sound. So that's my take on it. I had a few things other to say to about rhythm. Maybe we could cross into there if you don't have any else on this.
You jumped ahead because that was the next point that I wanted to bring up, was actually about the tonal colors. But before we do that, there's one more point.
But did you want to add on to that then?
Yes, there's one more point I wanted to add on my second point I wanted to make, which was I think what this is adding to the point you were making earlier about not trying to overly, copy the person's voice to the point where you're doing something unnatural, but also at the same time realizing that every single person's voice is different. So even if you're approaching the phrase in more or less the same way that another artist is, it's still going to sound different in your voice, and it's going to sound different in the next person's voice, and the next person's voice, and then the next person's voice. And part of this idea of why don't I sound good is because you're partly learning what are the things that are unique to my voice. And a lot of times you only learn what's unique to you by sitting and trying to sing something that someone else has done and realizing oh, when they sing this line, they sound this way, but when I sing this line, I sound a little bit different. It still sounds okay, but I sound a little bit different in this way. So what I would like to do, Phil, if you don't mind doing this, is if we could take a few lines of this song and then each sing the line so they can hear how it sounds in your voice, how it sounds in my voice, and see, okay, it's still not exactly the same. It's in the same vein, but it's still some differences.
Sure. Where would you like to start?
We're going to start from the beginning of the song. We just do a few lines from there and then go from there.
All right. So, but I don't know if it's a good example because he's not the same as us, but his range is similar to us, I guess.
Yeah, but still, because of the timbres of each of our voices is different. Like the timbre of your voice is much closer to his than mine is. So I think that would be a good.
You reckon my timbre is closer to him, do you?
Yes.
Really?
Closer than mine is.
I think yours is closer.
No way. No, I have a brighter sounding, like my voice has more of that metallic kind of quality to it than Luther's does. Like if you compare Luther Vandross to Peebo Bryson, Luther Vandross has that kind of to his voice, and mine has more of that, whereas Peebo's voice is more smooth. It doesn't really have that in there.
All right, we'll go to a different part than we've already done. His part. Oh, sorry. Who is it? We'll do the verse going to the chorus. The second part of the verse. Here. Okay, so let's have a shot. So we'll go. What we're going to do is we're going to. Manel and I are going to play parts of this song and show you how Peebo does it, show you how I do it, show you how Manel does it, and you can hear how there's got to be some slight adjustments to get the sound to be right for our voices. But we're going to try and be true to the song, I guess. So, I'm not going to be going, haven't seen the signs, I'm not going to be singing like that. You're going to be trying to get the tone. So I'll play it. I'll play Peebo first.
Haven't seen the sun since you've been gone. Like my heart, I lost it when you left me, and it can't be found.
Okay, have a shot at that.
Go ahead, you first.
Okay. Haven't seen the sun since you've been gone. Like my heart, I lost it when you left me, and it can't be
Okay,
found.
good. All right, let me see if I can try it. If I remember the words, give me 1 second. Mm. Haven't seen the sun since you've been gone. Like my heart, I lost it when you left me, and it can't be found. Then it goes dun, dun, dun.
How can I go on? Baby, I've been living on memories. Fucked up the lick. Memories of you and me. Da, 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 da. And then yours.
What's the line? Do you, am I,
Uh,
I'll just say,
no, the line.
how,
No, the
how
line.
can I go on? Baby, I've been living in memories of you and me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, all right, we're gonna do it again. All right. So the next bit. Yeah, here we go. All the love we made, all those tender nights and those endless days, they're all here inside.
Okay. All
So,
the love
how
we
about we
made.
discuss that? I think we've shown enough there. How about we discuss a bit about that? So,
Well, hold on. I'll do mine just so they hear that too from me, and then we'll discuss. Trying to shortchange me here.
no, I thought you were gonna I thought you were gonna do the whole song. So I was like, that's enough.
All the love we made, all those tender nights and those endless days, they're all here inside.
Nice,
Baby,
cool.
yeah, the baby, can you
Can you
stop? Yeah.
stop the rain from falling? Won't you chase my clouds away? Yeah. So,
Okay. So what was the
what are
discussion?
the observations you would make about all three of us, Peebo, you and I and myself, and how we approach it, and how what are the things we're doing, and then I can comment on the same thing or something like that.
To me, the biggest difference is the way like the just a natural timbre. So as I mentioned, Peebo has more of a kind of thing to his voice, a kind of sound. You kind of have a little bit more of that, whereas mine is different. My sound tends to naturally be more open, and I think it's partly just due. If you look at the physical differences between us, Peebo doesn't have a big mouth. Mine is like this. If you look at Peebo's mouth, his mouth is like half the size of mine, and I think that partly plays in with the differences of our vowel sounds. Like, you know, the how can I get
Yeah, let's pull up Peebo doing just that little bit there, or is it? Yeah, it's
he's
not
more
as
how can if I do that for my
yeah.
voice that feels unnatural for me. Like I'm trying to copy his color, but that does not feel natural for me to go. How can I go on? I mean I can do it, but it feels natural for me to go. How can I? That feels natural for me. For
And
him,
does that? Do you think that also has to do with the vocal cord paralysis that you were born with, or do you think that's not the case with that?
it could play a part in it, but I think in this case it's just more to do with the natural different shapes in our mouths and the way our vocal tracts are shaped. So on certain notes, different people's voices will cater towards a different kind of sound more than others. I think that's what the case is more here. Because your mouth is closer. shaped more closely to people than it is to mine.
I see. And would you describe that as giving more of a rounded tone?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to point out too, Marnell was born with, what is it, partial vocal cord paralysis?
Yes.
So that uh, that shows how beastly he is, because that affects your cord closure quite profoundly, doesn't it? And gives you more of a it. You've had to overcome. It's been a very big journey for you to engage that much chest into your sound because
Yes.
of that. Well, could you describe that, like what it does and how it prevents, how it has caused you struggles?
It makes it very hard to find chest voice. It makes it a whole lot harder to control dynamics because the chords don't resist the air properly. So it makes it very hard to just get things to flow really nicely. So I've kind of had to find my own little workarounds for this. But that's also partly what makes my voice, what gives it kind of this brighter, almost more metallic kind of sound, is due to the closure not kicking in properly. So those are, let's see, what else does it do? Uh, it also makes it weird in getting power sometimes. That's probably the biggest thing, is that it prevents you from really being able to lean into the voice.
And some people, like some of you watching this, may have some unique imbalances that for whatever reason, that's going to change how you approach the phrase. Like what Marnell pointed out, how even the shape of the mouth would just affect your tone. It would just change it. And you've just got to realize how far you can take the sound in accordance to, like, I want to get more of this quality. You might be listening to people and go, oh, I really want that buttery sound. You just got to find how far you can take it, put a serious effort into it, and then realize when you got to move on. And what the way I personally find this balance of, like, how far down the rabbit hole do I go of trying to copy a tone? The answer to that comes because I get emails about this. They say, well, should I just copy everything? And, like, what do I do? So my answer to that is, the more you make your own songs, your own music, or the more you make covers of songs in your own style, that is where you find your true voice. Because here's a good exercise you can try. Take that same damn song we just did and cover it into a rock genre. It's going to be completely different. Or take a rock song and cover it as a jazz song. Take a Dio song and do a jazz version of it. It's going to be different. And that's how you start finding your sound, is when you start going, hey, I don't really have a reference for this anymore. I've just got to do it my own way. What's going to come out? The more you do it that way, the more you will find things you can rely on, and things that are risky. And the things that you can rely on are the things that are more true to your voice, or at least true to where you are currently in your skill level. So with that said, there was a bit on timing and rhythm I wanted to show you within this actual song, if you wouldn't mind jumping into that part.
Sure.
So I wanted to show specifically on the second verse. Where is it?
I feel you there, following my footsteps like a shadow.
Okay, here's a good example here where he goes,
Following my footsteps like a shadow.
where he's like, following my footsteps like a shadow. He's like a shadow. He's doing all those really, really, like, even though it's a slow, buttery ballad, he's still hitting on the beat.
There's actually something else in there too that I would like to point out in the
Yeah.
line. The following my footsteps like a shadow. Like, even that part, that da 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 da, because there is still a beat under the song. It's like a dun 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 dun, and he's following that. Following my footsteps like a shadow.
Good point. This kind of leads me into more of an up-tempo song. I wanted to show briefly the difference between this is something I always see. So I'm going to say it's a Michael Jackson song. I'm going to just show you a syncopated beat for a moment. It goes like this. So that
What
beat
song is
goes
this?
another part of me.
Okay.
So when I find singers trying to do this song, they always do it like a. It's like that when the song is really like. It's got this kind of like groovy swing kind of feel, and I learned that from listening to a lot of songs that are influenced by R&B and hip hop and things. And I think rock singers or anyone who isn't used to that type of beat needs to learn that beat, because when you go outside of that genre, that beat is found in many different styles. So that is a beat I recommend everyone get used to. Different types of beats, not just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but more of a one. So how would you count that? I'm trying to think, because this is all organic for me. So it's uh 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's got more of that kind of. So the kick and the snare are still on dum, 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 but it's the hi hats that change it. So you could go dum, dum, dum. That's a normal beat, or you could go dum, dum, dum. It's still the. It's still 1, 2. Dum. Instead of so that's those two types of beats are something you got to study, because when you hear covers, even if they hit all the notes, if they get that rhythm confused, it just botches the whole song. It kills the feel. So that's just as a side note. I think it's very important. Do you have any comments on that kind of thing?
The other thing I would like to add about that is what I suggest to everyone to do when they sing, especially to learn to emphasize the beat and the phrasing more, is number one, you're not going to emphasize the beat if you don't move your body. So the first thing you got to do before you start singing a word to the song is you got to start moving your body to the beat. You got to tap your foot to the beat of the song. You better start snapping your fingers, nod your head to it. You have to get your body moving in sync with how the music is moving, because your voice has to follow the sync, the synchronization of your body, the movements of the body, so everything is on the same page. So that's the first thing I would start with. The next thing I would do is, even if you can kind of beatbox the beat to it, kind of just like how you were literally doing, and what I was just doing with the people song, especially listen to the instrumental parts of the song. Listen, what is the music doing, especially in terms of rhythm, like the people song. I just drew a blank there for a second.
I listen for the bass and the drums. So boom, boom, boom. I'm hearing the bass and the drums driving it. That's
Right.
the kind of thing. I think it's a good point though, what you said about getting your foot tapping, your finger snapping. I think when you combine that element with those little nuanced phrases that we were doing, where you're fading in on notes, you're going light to medium, and or when you can put vibrato and things like that. When you get those elements tied, that is the almost like the delivery mechanism of singing with emotion. Because without those elements, singing with emotion doesn't even work. The rhythm's got to, because if you can get the rhythm there and still sing at the same time without feeling like, because this is the number one problem I see, they get that rhythm, and as soon as they got to open their mouth, how can I go? And they get all locked up like that. So you still got to be, how can I go on? You still got to be able to groove to that, because then you've got a body connection. You're connected to your body. Your instrument is now the body, not just the larynx or the vocal cords. It's the whole body now.
And that actually reminds me of what you just did there. That beat made me think of that Stevie Wonder song.
Which one?
When I see you on the street, my whole body gets weak. What is that song called?
Oh, yeah, what's that one?
I do where he has that nice little riff on the guitar. What do I do?
I remember the name, but Is that the one that goes, do I do, 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 do? I don't
No,
know.
no, no. It's the one that has the nice little guitar riff. But anyway, that's a perfect example of a song where you, because especially it's up tempo, you know, it has nice horns in it. You get your body moving to it. Like you notice, I'm already like this before I even started singing. And this is actually a good practice to do too. Can you keep a steady beat and hold a conversation? You see, I'm still keeping my beat going, but I'm talking at the same time. I'm not losing my beat. You got to get to the point where you can do this. This will be like patting your, what is this called? Patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time for a lot of you out there. And it's definitely going to take practice. What I find is rhythm, learning how to emphasize the beat. Not just timing, but literally within each measure of music, how you emphasize the beat. That is a very hard thing for a lot of people to pick up on, especially if you're not used to listening to very rhythmic music in the first place. So you must be very patient with yourself when it comes to this. It is not something that's going to come overnight. It's literally a coordination thing, and you're going to feel like you're fumbling all over the place. Like for a lot of people that come to me and have rhythm issues, just to simply tap their foot and snap their fingers at the same time, it's like we literally have to sit for a while and learn just how to do that first. Can you go... what's the song? A perfect example of a song. A Mariah Carey cover song. With what is it? Without You. I think that's it. Yeah. So this has a very syncopated beat because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Dun, dun, dun. No, I can't forget this evening or your face as you were leaving, but I guess that's just the way the story goes. You always smile, but in my eyes your sorrow shows. Yes, it shows. No, I can't forget tomorrow when I'm faced with all my sorrows. When I had you there, but then I let you go. And now it's only fair that I should let you know. Mess up the words. What you should know. Dun-dun. I can't live if living is without you. I can't live. I can't live anymore.
Now I know the
I
song.
can't live if living is without you. I can't give. I can't give anymore. No, I can't forget. But with that song, especially in the verses, not so much in the hook, not so much in the chorus, but the verses, is very rhythmically driven the way she does the phrasing. Duh. No, I can't forget this evening. And if you don't do that, you're not going to sound right singing the song. That's what makes the song. It's that phrasing, the way it comes in with the beat, with this dun.
And the verses are harder than the chorus.
Yeah, the verses are the low part, and they're harder because of that rhythmic phrasing issue.
And the pitch too. All those little pitch changes and runs and stuff. Those and the little fades. Mm-hmm. Those are harder to get right than just the high notes. The high notes, they are a challenge to get, but once you got them, they're a bit more reliable than the low range. That's why we've been showing you a lot of verses today, is because oftentimes, I mean, people firstly overlook that stuff. They're like, hey, it's in my speaking range, blah, 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 you know?
Right.
No. The stuff in your speaking range is the hardest to get accurate because that's where the pitch screws up the most. Mm-hmm. And then when you try and put in all these little effects on it, it just further makes it harder to do all this stuff. So I personally work on that stuff the most rather than just the big notes, you know. That's where I spend most of my time trying to get that right. What I want to... I know what it was now. Okay, so what I want to add was back to that Peebo song, talking about the rhythm. There was one part I showed, but I wanted to show you because this goes back to what you said about studying instrumentalists. Mm-hmm. Have a listen to this. Where is it? Gotta find that. Okay, that bit. Everywhere I go. Not only is he hitting those beats, but as he gets into the beat more and lands on the most accentuating on the main beat, that's when the volume's at its peak. And that's something I heard from John Petrucci, who's a heavy metal guitarist. When he was teaching shredding and things like that, he said the one that emphasizes a beat, you play that one louder.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he would have you being like 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and you're going up in the pitches, and that way you never lose your timing, and that way you're also building a slight crescendo as you're going up. This is really important for fast phrasing that where you can easily lose your point. So,
but I want to add something to that, because there is a very important point there that a lot of people don't get, especially when it comes to singing syncopated music, like that Mariah Carey song, that Without You. That's a perfect example of it. When the beat gets accented in a way that's non-standard, so most people, when they think of 4/4 time, they think 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. That the 1 and the 3 are the one that are getting accented. But 9 times out of 10, when you start getting into rhythmic music, if you accent just the 1 and the 3, it's just going to sound plain and boring. So most songs don't do that. They either accent the 2 and the 4, or they will accent some other offbeat. So like the Mariah Carey song, it's like 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 da da da. That's what makes a song. If you go 1 2 3 4, it feels like stiff, and it feels like marching music. It doesn't have that kind of laid back syncopated feel to it that you get when you accent the other beats. So that's an important thing, and a lot of you will probably, if you're not used to listening in terms of rhythm, you will struggle with that in terms of even knowing which beat to accent in the first place. But yeah, that's something that's very important to watch out for, is knowing when to accent the beat of a song, because that plays in with the phrasing a whole lot.
I think that's when, that's the real benefit of studying these great singers, is we can pick up these things without sometimes not even realizing that they're doing that as a technique, but we'll pick it up. And sometimes they're not even doing it as a technique. It's just natural to them. Mm-hmm. But if Marnell and I are really trying to point out to you all these kind of variables that you can pay attention to now to help stop sounding bad when you sing a song. To make you go, hey, like, if I just pay attention to these kind of things, it does revolutionize your singing. And this is beyond range, because whether or not you've got high range or not, the key is whatever range you got now. This is a mistake I made. You want to get to the point where people say you sound good, mm-hmm. even in the low range. Mm-hmm. If you can get comments like that, you're pretty much sold. You're done. You've done it. You've achieved something good. So when I was learning singing, I made a mistake. I was after just power, high notes, straight off the gate. I had no skill in my low range. So I urge you, while you're working on the range, or even if you've already got it, whatever, spend a lot of time getting verses down. And so once again, it has to do with genre, because I know some of the songs that you guys like to sing don't have these colors in them. They're too straight. I call them straight songs. They're just what's that? The things like that. It's just like 2 notes, and it's just the same intensity. You want to kind of move a little bit away from those songs and get more into these songs that have all these kind of colors in them, and tones and crescendos. So that's all. That's
at
what
least
I
for learning musicianship and starting to develop.
And then when you go back,
palette.
When you go back to those up-tempo songs, you'll have so much more swagger in the tone naturally. It'll come across.
Because even with that song that you just did, most people don't realize it. You got to emphasize the beat when you sing that. If you listen to were you doing We Will Rock You?
I think so. That it's sort of Just
I think that's what it
something
was. The Freddie Mercury book. Yeah, the
blood
Freddie
on
Mercury.
your face, big disgrace.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
the key
even
of
with something like that, there's a very strong rhythmic element. Number one, if you listen to the song, it's just boom, 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 boom. You got to get your body moving to that before you even start singing the song. That's what's driving the song. And then even in the phrasing, you have these accented notes. Even though it's just a couple notes repeating back and forth, back and forth, there are accented notes, and you got to back off, accent, back off.
and I feel like most people never pick up on those things because they've never studied slow music. So that was a big problem because it becomes when it's faster like that, it's more subtle because there's less.
Right.
It's and this is a good trick you can try when you're studying a song. Sing it in slow motion because when you sing it in slow motion, um, suddenly you've got to do something with the notes. Otherwise, But I don't know the key of it. Do you know the key of it?
I don't know the key.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to go off anything. So, I don't know the lyrics either. Is it Buddy, you're a man, you're
I
a
don't
tall
remember
man?
the lyrics either.
I just did a bit I do know. If I do it really slow, blood on your face, big disgrace. I'm not sure if that's where it is, but anyway, you get the idea. If you do it slower rather than blood on your face, big disgrace, it's harder to pick up what's going on when it's fast. But if I do it slow, blood, I'm fading in. Blood on your face.
And those are the accented notes. So the accented notes on that phrase are blood and face. So if you say blood on and then you're accenting the on just like the other three notes, you just lost the beat of the song.
Good point. So, what I like to do is when we were doing that a while ago, I was studying a Brian McKnight song, and I was getting to the point where I was like, I'm just going to sing this in slow motion, and and here's another trick you can do: pull up VLC player and slow down the song to 50% and try and sing along with it if you're having trouble hearing these things, because it will perk up your ear to things that you haven't heard before. Just don't rely on that as a crutch because you also do want to see if you can develop your ear at the true speed of the song. But I think that's a great exercise, putting the song down to 50% because you've now got time to put in all these little fades and vibrato on the end of each note and pulling out the note and things like that. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. Do you got anything to add or what do you want to do next?
I just want to reiterate that point that you made earlier about still trying to work on your phrasing, like no tomorrow, with whatever range you had. Because going back to my own personal experience, when I first started out, I could only sing to C sharp above middle C. That's one note. That very first black note right above middle C. That was as far as I could sing up to, at least in full voice. I had some falsetto range beyond that, but that was it. I practice phrasing incessantly up through that range. So yeah, I could only sing up to a C sharp above middle C, but I knew how to
Sounds good.
make it sound good within that range because people is really interesting because when you can phrase well, it makes people think that you can sing much more beyond your actual technical capability level. So people just still enjoy listening to you anyway, and people will say that all the time. And it's because I worked a lot on developing the colors that I could find within that range. How many different colors can I find in that range? Can I find there are sometimes I will sing with a really bright sound like let me think. What's a song? Okay, using that Peebles song again. I normally won't sing it with a bright color like this, but I did it as an exercise just to learn what can my voice do and how does it sound. How does this change the sound and change the feeling of the song if I do it this way? So, I think I think that's the key of the song. So, I go. So this is kind of the way I would normally sing it. Here's another morning without you. But I can sing this way. Here's another morning without you. That brings in a different kind of, it just brings a different flavor out of the song. I can sing it the darker way. Here's another morning without you.
That's
Here's
more
another day will I get through. But this is unnatural for me, at least in this song. But at least I know I have that color. and my voice. And then, there's other, millions of other little colors that you can find. And this is what you begin to learn as you experiment with songs more. So what my teacher would do, she recommended, whenever you have a phrase from a song or like a little section of a song, find 4 or 5 different ways that you can sing it that communicate different ideas to your audience, that give across a different feel. And then when you have those options available to you, it's up to you as an artist to choose, okay, I like this way, I like this way, this other way, I don't really like that one so much, or maybe I might like it in another song better. But that's you, developing as an artist. So I just showed you 3 different ways I have of singing that phrase. I could probably find another way of singing it too. Let me see another color. So I could actually do it leaning into my voice more. So that was me singing more softly. I can lean into my voice. That will make a different color. Here's another morning without you. That gives yet another color.
That's a good point too, because you can lean into your voice that low, but for my voice, that's a bit too low for me to get
Really?
loud. Yeah. So I could go, here's another morning. That's light, but the loudest I could probably get down there is, here's another morning with that. I guess I can I can do it down there. But that was a point that I wanted to bring up, was some people who have higher voices won't be able to dig in deeper in the low range. Like, what was it? Damn, what was a good example? I think we talked about this recently, of a really low song and about not being able to dig in. We talked about this recently. I can't remember it. And you were talking about taking off at the E4, F4 kind of range. Oh no, don't worry. That was
I think it was a bass aria.
Yeah, it wasn't that though. We were talking about a contemporary song. Anyway, I wanted to bring up though was like different voices the volume will take. Okay, last video I guess we covered it. There was for example, if I take a scale, the easy way I can describe it is my voice can go really low, but I can't sing into my voice, and this is why I'm not a bass, and this is why a lot of people will say like, oh, I'm a dramatic bass because I can sing the F1 or something. It's like, yeah, but you're singing it like this,
right?
That doesn't count. If I go really low, I can't go louder than that down there. I can go lower. That's grating on my throat. I can't push in that sound. It's the loudest I can get out of that. However, if I go more up around that E4, it just naturally takes off more. Naturally gets louder.
Now, what's your comfortable? What is your comfortable medium volume on that scale? Because I want to show this so they'll hear the difference in my voice and your voice.
On the E?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like a medium volume would be more like that's kind of like a light medium, I guess.
Now, what's the comfortable loud volume for you on that same scale?
That's louder but not like pushing it. That's like, yeah, it's louder, but it still feels good.
Okay. Now, for me, if I were to sing that's right around the point where my voice just wants to start blooming and taking off and start getting more intense. So for me, even if I sing that at a medium volume, it's going to sound different than it does with Phil. So I'll try to do that at a medium volume. That's medium for me. My voice really wants to just naturally go louder. It wants to go, That's what my voice wants to do. And everyone has a bloom point in their voice, and it's going to occur at a different note in your range, because my voice is.
My one does that at maybe a note or two higher than that. That same feeling, I think, of where it wants to get bigger.
Right.
And that's where the voice type kind of comes in.
Yes, and that's also where you have to keep that in mind especially when you're trying to sing a song by someone else that has a different kind of voice than you. If you don't feel like you can readily relate to that other person's voice, then it's probably because partly these things are happening in that person's voice at a different range. So it will sometimes make it easier to study phrasing if you can find someone whose voice is kind of sort of like yours that you can kind of relate to, and it'll make it easier. So what I used to do when I first started, because I didn't know how to use my chest voice because of the paralysis, it made my voice was like really light and really thin, and made my teacher make it made her think that I was a really light tenor voice. So I thinking that I started listening to really light tenors, like people like Jesse Powell, people like who else did I listen to? I think Jesse Powell was the one that I listened to the most, and I was trying to sing like him. And the more and more I tried to sing like him, the more it was just like this. I don't relate to this at all.
It's
So
like
then,
me with Michael Jackson.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when he hits a high C, that and he's kind of thin on the tone. I could like for me to do that. It's a very different thing to do than him.
But when I started listening to baritones and people that had like heavier, thicker voices, I felt like I could relate more to those sounds. Like when I tried to copy those things, I felt at home. So I was like, oh, I can see how to shape my phrase here more easily because my voice wants to do what this person's voice is doing. It's like, okay, this is a range that feels natural for me. This is a volume level that feels natural for me. Like I'm trying to think who was one of the first singers that I started to copy like this. I originally started with Josh Groban's music because it was in a range that I could kind of handle, and I was working on phrasing a lot by using that. And now, even though my voice still wants to bloom, more than his, like much more intensely than his does, it kind of sits in a way that I can relate to. So, what was the song I used to sing? If I go, fly me up to where you are beyond a distant star. I wish upon tonight to see you smile, if only for a while to know you're there. A breath away's not far to where you are. So my voice is different than his. My voice takes some more. It just blooms and takes so much more intensity for this
I've got
smile. Like that's just natural for me. His voice doesn't want to do that there.
I,
So
I got sorry, I got a good example after this. Sorry, go on.
okay, so he gets like a little bit more of a mellow, laid back kind of sound. So that's something that when you start to sing songs by other people, you'll, like I mentioned earlier, you'll realize, oh, this is where more my voice is different, and this is where that person's voice is different. Okay, I kind of see that, and then you will start to know with that in mind, you can start to take advantage of that. So start choosing songs from then on that let you showcase that. Start arranging the songs that you are singing in such a way to take advantage of those things.
So I had a song too that a student of mine was singing recently, and it just occurred to me to pull this up because I had to talk to him through this, the idea that you're talking about here. I think it'll be good for people to hear this on our voices possibly. So it's just spur of the moment, but it's a Maroon 5 song, and it's a very light kind of tone, and it goes like this. So that kind of tone. So Sunday morning rain is falling. So for me, it comes out a bit heavier than his one. And the student that I was training, his voice was coming out bigger too. And he was like, hey, I want to get this kind of thin tone. And it's like, yeah, that's cool, but it's got to be thin for your voice. Okay? So let's have a listen again. Sunday morning rain. That's me getting probably as close as I'm ever going to get to that lightness of the volume without disconnecting in the falsetto. And this is a point that I want to make. You don't get those kind of sounds by woofing around in falsetto for 10 years hoping it's going to transform. You don't go for that sound going, Sunday morning rain is falling. And you don't do it like that. So it's still in the real voice. You're still approaching everything in the voice that you speak in, and it stems from that. It's that, it's a chest voice. Everything stems from that sound. And that's the sound you want to always be catering to. Not trying to get this kind of mixed voice thing from falsetto or something like that and calling it head voice, So I think that wraps it up, my friend. What do you think? We've gone on quite long.
I agree. We covered the main things that needed to be said. Just phrasing, just to wrap it up, it's phrasing, paying attention to your tonal colors, to the vowel colors that you use, paying attention to the beat and how you're singing to the beat. You know, if you start paying attention to all of that, regardless of whatever range you have right now, start to listen out for those things and apply it to your voice more. That's what will help you to sound good.
For sure. And singing with emotion. I mean, singing with emotion, it's when someone sings with emotion and sounds great, all these traits are in it. They're
Mm-hmm.
inside of it. So if you're ever wondering about how do I sing better, how do I sing with emotion, how do I sound good, it stems from these kind of qualities. So with that said, let's call that a day. I think we went on long enough. Let us know down below in the comment if first of all if you made it to the end of the video. So put that down. Did you make it to the end of the video? Is 5 special star golden sticker star if you did. Second of all, what did you find most surprising or interesting about this video? And just let us know down below. What did you find most surprising and interesting about the video? As for me, I'm out, and I'd like to thank you, Marnell, again. And if you'd like to see more videos by us, let us know. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't done so already, so that way you can be notified of when the latest videos are posted. And
head over to vocalliberation.com. I'll put the link down in the description and on top of the video, and I'm going to do that at the start of the video too. So yeah, and sign up for Marnell's mailing list. Go to my website, sign up for my mailing list too if you haven't done so, because we share stuff in the mailing list that we don't always post explicitly to YouTube.
okay, yep,
Cool.
that sounds good.
Okay, it was a pleasure. Take it easy and see you next time.